Hello and welcome to Red, White, and Bi. I'm Ash.
And I'm Hannah, and we're on episode 5 already.
Time flies? I don't
Because
know.
we are having fun.
Time flies when you hang out with bis. Something like that.
We're recording this on the first day of June. So happy June, everybody. Michigan is a little behind the times, but we're working on some nicer weather here.
Yeah, it's pretty nice today, and we're going to get right into some interesting topics for the week. I'm going to start with the fact that every single left-wing outlet and some of the right-wing outlets, so starting with like the Washington Post, the New York Times, anybody you can think of, covered a really anonymous source suggesting that Elon Musk was using drugs in the White House and that they traveled with him everywhere he goes. He has ketamine and ecstasy, which, why not?
Is this like they found these drugs in the White House, or like eyewitness, like they saw him taking them? Like, what is the root of the rumor or fact, whichever?
So it's an anonymous source, as always,
Mm-hmm.
saying that it was in the White House everywhere, that everyone knows that he takes drugs all the time
So it's something that was talked about, but maybe not witnessed?
and not really substantiated.
Okay,
So, kind
cool.
of a boring story in a way, but also, um, I noticed a tweet from Meghan McCain suggesting, like, hey, come on, you know, all of these sources should be reporting on this because if in the Obama White House and someone working in the administration had been taking drugs, you guys would have been all over it. But here's what is funny to me: Meghan McCain is in many ways like her dad. I think kind of walks a, like, I don't know, center left line. And I noticed that she just skipped the last White House because they actually investigated cocaine in the White House.
And that situation was different too because there was literal physical, I don't know, baggies or whatever kind of containers that comes in. There was actual drugs found. Like they had
Yeah.
physical drugs in hand. It wasn't just a rumor, it wasn't just gossip. It was empiric, right?
Well, or they found residue, I thought, like a white powder. And it's like you have to investigate it because it could be anthrax. And it turned out to be cocaine. And it's like, was Biden, who, was cognitively declining, taking it to get by? Was his son in the White House, who we know takes every drug that he can get his hands on and makes videos about doing so? So they did report on that slightly, but I felt like it was kind of buried because we never found out whose drugs they were.
I gotta say, like, in terms of cocaine being used with discretion in the White House, I'm kind of for it. Like, Biden, I hope he was on some drugs. Like that must have been. We all know it's an exhausting job. It like is really physically taxing. It takes a lot of energy. You got to be on probably 20 hours a day for 4 years. I'm not sure I could do that.
I've got to say, in a lot of ways, I think that the George W. Bush White House would have been much improved if he hadn't stopped taking coke. I feel
He
like,
stopped for the presidency.
well, okay, so in college, he admitted to doing like coke at Yale.
He was like a coked up cheerleader, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he was a coked up C student cheerleader.
I feel like I want to hang out with what is it, 80s Bush.
Well, and
No pun intended.
I gotta say though, okay, it's like he was a C student, and really, I think part of the appeal to the American public was like the Carter peanut farmer thing. Like he's just like me; he only got C's. It's like, well, maybe your president should be exceptional and not pull C's at Yale. But I don't think he was one of our worst presidents, so it's okay.
I really didn't like him at the time, but I didn't
Yeah.
know much about politics either. And looking back, his hindsight's 2020, and he just sounds like the most fun. I bet he's bi. You're not a coked up college male cheerleader and straight about it.
Unless you really just want to get that close to the girls, though.
At any rate, he seems like a hilarious person who was probably just a really fun time, and I kind of miss him as president.
I will say, with It's kind of like, remember feeling safe? Because really, I think like the last time I felt like there was a Republican that made me feel safe, like even in post 9/11, it was Bush. Like the whole, like, we're going to get whoever knocked down these towers. Maybe we got dragged into an unnecessary war, but I really did feel like he was protecting the country at the time.
I feel like he at least addressed it, and seeing
Yeah.
him in his little aviators and his leather bomber jacket with that Texas drawl, it's like, okay, we're gonna go Texas on you.
Yeah, I didn't like him by his second term, but looking back, I do feel like intelligence may have led him astray, and maybe he was a well-intentioned person that just didn't have everything he needed to be successful. Was maybe led astray by Dick Cheney and that kind of stuff. But all this to say, um, I think he might have been damn effective on cocaine in the White House, because, like, I think that war on terror would have gone real different if he had just been coked out.
And so, was it Coke that Elon was supposedly taking?
No, but this is what gets weird
I
to
was gonna
me.
say, because he does not have a Coke bod.
No, and it's like, why doesn't he? If I were Elon Musk, that is what I would choose to do, is cocaine.
Yeah,
Like, I would have a coke bod, I'd be real efficient and effective, and I'd only sleep 4 hours a night.
tan and 80s thin. So it was
It
what
was
now?
ketamine and ecstasy.
Well, ketamine can be prescribed, so I wouldn't even really call that, like, I'm sure his was not a prescription, but I don't think ketamine is necessarily illicit. It could be pharmaceutical.
Yeah, and he did change the name of Twitter to X, which maybe he does take ecstasy. It's like, if you really want to go to Mars, maybe you can do so in your mind if you're on enough shit.
I think people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and I don't know who this McCain chick is. I don't know much about her, but, like, if you have McCain money, if you're into politics, you can't tell me you've never done coke. You've never partied on drugs. I don't believe you. And if that's true, you're probably not a very good politician.
Yeah, I would just say Meghan McCain would probably benefit from cocaine herself. I like her some of the time, and I think she's a better person than she is a political commentator. And she seems to have friends on both sides of the aisle, which I do respect, especially in this day and age. But all that to say, if you're as rich as Elon Musk and you're not messing around with drugs that you can get easily, you're probably just like being disingenuous. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think you have Musk money and don't do that stuff. And I think, honestly, I think what holds a large number, maybe a vast majority of people back, is money. So, you know,
yeah, when he was dating Grimes, he made some like synth pop music, and
wait.
yeah, it's not bad, and maybe it would have been improved with a little more ecstasy and ketamine.
What?
Yeah.
Can you listen to this shit?
Yeah, in fact, like, maybe on another episode we'll just cut in some stuff. Maybe we'll do it at the end of
We
this
should put
episode.
them on. We should put his song on the end of this.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I mean, I knew he was with Grimes. I didn't know he made his own music. That must be some wild shit.
Well, and I'll just say this because it's just us, because, like, who's listening? But really, like, I'm a big Grimes fan, and I would say that his whole new shtick about, like, putting a chip in the human brain came from some of Grimes's themes in her music. She talks about how, are you even alive if you're not backed up on a drive? And I feel like he's into the stuff that she was putting out there, and maybe some of his ideas were influenced by her. So they're both probably taking some stuff and have some wackadoo ideas, but that's how music gets made, whether it's good or
And
bad.
honestly, that's kind of how those people get made. You're not doing what everybody else is doing already. Because if you were, you wouldn't be Elon Musk and you wouldn't be Grimes.
And I'll just say one last thing about it. If ecstasy and ketamine help someone like Elon Musk think outside the box, then I'm all for it.
He's on the spectrum, right? In all seriousness?
He says that. I don't believe it.
Okay.
He says he's got Asperger's.
He definitely seems socially awkward. So, like,
Sure.
let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure ketamine and ecstasy probably help him with that. And there's an argument to be made that he might be better functioning on it.
And I will say, too, that to your point, what if he just, because he is socially awkward, probably has anxiety, what if he just has a prescription for ketamine and this entire thing has been blown out of proportion, because that is possible.
For sure.
So, yeah, with that said, we'll move on to the next story, which has basically blown up on every media outlet. And we've seen like a lot of uh,
Coverage.
a lot of journalists, a lot of commentators from all walks of life commenting on it. It's the Glenn Greenwald story, where um, someone had taken a video of him. He had, basically bought time with a male prostitute. And there were some, compromising videos of him doing in some fetish wear, having consensual gay male sex. He, in the past, had been married to another man, but is divorced now.
So it's well known that he's gay. It's not this. The story isn't that he's gay. It's that he has a sex tape.
Yes, and in kind of like, cutting it off at the knees, not allowing someone to blackmail him, he retweeted the video himself and commented on it. And
so is it? Are we to believe? Is it the sex worker that leaked it?
So no one knows who initially. Like obviously he may have known that he was on video at the time, and like lots of people do that. So the the rumor from people who are pro Palestine, like Glenn Greenwald is that like Israel had something to do with it. There's nothing to substantiate who at this juncture. So that's just like the rumor mill. So there are some journalists who are blaming Mossad, that kind of thing. There are other people who are like, if it was really his undoing, why would he retweet it himself?
Yeah, that seems a little tinfoil hatty to me. I don't think people need a reason to leak a sex tape other than attention.
Exactly. And like I don't know much about him. So like I wouldn't say necessarily that he's above that. I wouldn't say that he would do that. And I also wouldn't blame anybody else right now with any kind of evidence as to who was behind it. But I did find one thing really refreshing, is that even people like Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA, who, basically models himself as like a good Christian and a conservative, said that they respect him as a journalist and this should not affect his career negatively. Pretty much every commentator you can imagine has come out in defense of him, that someone tried to hurt him and that is not fair. And I feel like maybe if the tables were turned, if this was Ben Shapiro or Guy Benson. If this were Guy Benson, I feel like maybe the left might behave differently. They might maybe try to ruin his career over it. He's right now he's a married man that he and his husband just had a baby, so it's a different situation than someone who is single. But I don't know. I don't know if they would defend him or not. It's kind of hard to make that assumption, but at the same time, I'm grateful that people on the right did not use that as a means, for the most part, to ruin his credibility. I will say though that there was one notable exception.
Well, yeah, I mean it's 2025. I don't think it's not 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like it's not. Everyone knows he's gay already. What people do behind closed doors as consenting adults really is nobody else's business. Everything is on the up and up. Nobody's being like coerced or taken advantage of. I think the sleaziest thing about this story is that somebody shared it.
Yeah, and I will say, just to point out the outlier, Lila Rose, who's a pro-life commentator and uber Christian, posted on Twitter, "Sexual ethics matter. What you do in the bedroom does impact other people, as well as yourself. A society that says anything goes sexually is a society in free fall."
Okay, well, let's examine that, if we will. Anything goes. is not okay, and we have laws about things that don't go. So this was not outside. I guess sex work isn't legal in,
Sure.
the majority of the United States, so maybe that's an ethical concern. But that doesn't seem to be the thing that anyone has an issue with. They have an issue with some of the fetish themes that were going on and the fact that it's two men. And those two things are not illegal. And if two people agree on them, that's not a free for all. That's not an anything goes. That's consenting adults making a choice that has nothing to do with what's her bucket.
Yeah, so me being me on Twitter had to respond, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the resident troll. So I said, anything goes? Are you talking about pedophilia? Bestiality? Surely not sex between two consenting adults. My wife and I are married. What we do in the bedroom doesn't affect anyone else. Grow up. I feel like people often say that somehow two people who are, same sex and having a relationship or whatever they're doing in the bedroom affects other people. And I would love an example of that because I don't find that to be true.
I know when we were coming up, there was a big social discussion about, well, if you see two men together or two women together in public, now I have to explain that to my kids. And I realize that that might be awkward, especially if you live in a religious household, like the kind of environment I was raised in. That might be an awkward conversation. You can't tell me that that's not already uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with sex, and kids need to learn about it, and they should learn about, the basic parameters of how it's treated in the world and what to be careful. They shouldn't be learning that from their parents. But you can't tell me that it's just casual and not awkward and not sort of anxiety inducing conversation to have.
Yeah, and it's like, for one thing, if you try to teach your kids that heteronormative relationships are the only ones that exist, you're bringing them up in a fantasy world at this point because that's not the truth.
They're going to have to face this issue eventually, whether or not you introduce it to them. So shouldn't you be in control of that conversation?
Exactly. And that's the same with, what parents don't want to see if, like, let's say there is an activist gay teacher who might be controlling the narrative. Isn't it better that you teach your children what to expect in the world and that you can kind of be in control of how to guide them than letting them just sort of like be smacked upside the head by it eventually?
Yeah,
That's one
the
thing.
idea that you will never be confronted with it. Maybe that could have been true, I don't know, in like the 1800s or something, but I doubt it was ever true.
Yeah, and for another thing, like, I'd say gay and straight people, not everybody's into like PDAs, so you might be surrounded by gays and not even know it. And that's one thing. And for another, I'll just tell an actual story. When I was a kid, over McDonald's, my dad kind of tried to give me the birds and the bees talk and basically said, like when men and women love each other, that they get married and that they want to have a baby. And my question to him was, well, can two women have a baby?
Record scratch.
And then he said nothing afterward.
Was that the end of the conversation?
That was the end of the conversation. It should have been a real red flag to Rick and Vic that maybe something else was going on with little Ash.
And it never came up again until you came out. Is that right?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. 26. Actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I came out a little bit. I came out at 17 and they just ignored me. And then I came out.
Sorry for laughing.
I came out harder later on.
Like, let's try this again. I didn't get any reaction from you.
I'm going to do it louder this time.
This isn't the McDonald's birds and the bees talk, Dad. You have to acknowledge it. Okay, so that sort of leads us into our third story here. And we didn't really plan this, but because it's June 1st and it's Pride Month, I guess we have two stories kind of about non-heteronormative subjects. So moving on to our third one, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on this one. This is a local story for us. There's a small city in Michigan called Hamtramck, and it's nestled within Detroit. So it's completely surrounded by Detroit. For anyone who's not from here, of course, we had the big auto industry history for our state. And in the early parts of the 20th century, there were people from all over the world coming for auto jobs. So as a result, we have all these really unique and diverse communities. We have all these unique cities that are, completely like dominated by one ethnic group or one religious group. And Hamtramck was one of those. It was like our Polish capital of the United States for a while. Completely Polish businesses and church services. It was up until I think they said like the last 30 years or so, it was completely Polish. In these last 30 years, it's shifted. It's now predominantly Muslim. So there's been some tension with that transition lately. And we're going to play a clip for you guys that encapsulates what we want to talk about.
Marries a woman or a guy marries a guy, do that, you go straight to her.
LGBTQ is not religion.
This is Hamtramck, Michigan, a predominantly Muslim town that made it illegal to hang the gay flag up in public space, causing a small war between the LGBT community and the Muslims that live here.
Not happy with the ban. I believe it to be unconstitutional. We've had 3 flags torn off. I'm not teaching hate against Muslims. Muslims should not be teaching hate against gay people. They had young people at the polls screaming, "Kill the flag." During the voting.
We're investigating the gay flag ban thing.
We go egg the flag. We gotta go egg the flag.
Really?
Right now.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Right now. So you see that flag right there?
See that, yeah.
That's some gay, right?
In this country, you can be who you want to be. Religion and politics have to be totally separate.
The Constitution says we're allowed to have religious beliefs. And in our religion, it says a woman marries a woman or a guy marries a guy, like strictly forbidden.
Leave the rest of us alone.
Okay, so we got this video from an Instagram account called Only Thus. The video was posted earlier this week, but I was surprised to learn that there is a legal ban on the gay flag that has existed in Hamtramck since 2023. And Hamtramck isn't terribly far away from us. It's like pretty close to anywhere in Southeast Michigan. Like I said, it's within Detroit. So this is a local community that has a legal ban on a gay flag for 2 years now. Hard stop. That's really strange that we haven't heard about it. And it's really strange that like we're surrounded also by all these ultra left communities. I've not heard anybody on the left talk about this. So I want to be very clear. This is not about Muslim beliefs. This is about what we want to address is the idea of religion, any religion, being made into law.
And also the idea that the First Amendment should protect your freedom of expression. It's not trumped by anything that would impose on that right to expression. Mm-hmm. So the idea is always with freedom that you have the freedom to do what you want as long as you are not imposing on the freedoms of others or hindering those freedoms in any way. This is an obvious, like my freedom of religion trumps your freedom of expression, which...
Right. So the young guy who was saying, we have freedom of religion in this country and our religion prohibits this, ergo we have a right. Like, I understand what he thinks he's saying, but you're right. Like, that is not the spirit of it. You're allowed to believe that homosexuality is a sin. You're allowed to believe that those people should be, put to death or ostracized or kicked out of a city or something. You're allowed to believe that stuff, but that's where it stops. Like, you can't take action against people. You can't rip down flags or vandalize businesses. You can't be violent. Have the beliefs you want. Post a sign on your lawn that says death to all homosexuals. That's fine. That's within your constitutional right.
So today on Facebook, kind of like, just checking some stuff out about this, I noticed that there is no Hamtramck Pride, that they are going to the Ferndale Pride. There's a whole LGBTQ group for Hamtramck where they basically said, like, we're going to ride the Ferndale coattails because maybe it's possible that these people don't feel safe walking through their own community.
I think that video makes it extremely clear that they're not safe.
Yeah.
So, you have young people throwing eggs at these houses. The one lady saying that they've had 3 flags torn off their property.
Yeah.
Which is not only trespassing and theft, but vandalism.
Yeah. And obviously, maybe, Hannah, you want to read the Reddit thread or, give some more context of this.
Right. So this is from somebody who lives in Hamtramck. And I just want to put this out there because I think it's fair to voice the opinion of somebody who's living through this every day. Unfortunately, I don't have the Redditor handle. I'm not sure the user who posted it, but I'll read the quote. There's queer people and allies who are here and fighting back, and we need the support of others rather than just being told to move. I like living here for a whole lot of reasons, and there are challenges anywhere. It's a matter of picking what your challenge is and what outweighs it for you. So I do want to give a shout out to people who are living in Hamtramck, dealing with this every day, trying to make a difference, and not just saying okay, fine, you can have the city, we're going to leave. Because we got that with Great White Flight in the 60s. We got that. There's a lot of racial and cultural tension in Detroit. It's an unfortunate part of our history, but it's a very real thing. And we all have a right to be here. There's a space for everybody. We can live together and respect each other. And I respect this Redditor for posting that. It's not enough to give up and leave. You have a right to be here, and you have a right to peaceful protest.
And something else that I saw on that Facebook thread was also that there's lots of business owners in Hamtramck who just ignore the ban and put a pride flag in their window so that people know that that's a safe place for, gay people, bisexuals, anybody, trans people to go, that they're an ally and they're going to be safe in that establishment. And maybe it speaks to, people not taking the ban so seriously or police not enforcing anything, that, business owners and some residents put up a flag anyway.
I got to say, in keeping with the theme of the podcast, this whole left versus right tension and who's really right and isn't it more in the middle, I'm a little disappointed that you have some extremely outspoken, aggressive people living in ultra-liberal cities like Ferndale that I see protesting on the overpasses on I-75 all the time. There's all kinds of gay flags and signs that you can't read going 70 miles an hour, but God bless them for trying. So why has this been the case for 2 years? And I've never heard that community say anything. At the risk of being controversial here, I feel like those people would be the first to stand up if this had been a Christian lawmaker imposing this kind of rule. I hear crickets when it comes to religions that aren't associated with white people being made into law. So I don't respect the intellectual inconsistency. If you have a problem with religion being law, with somebody's personal morals being forced upon you, then you should have a problem with it everywhere. And fuck you for staying silent.
Yeah, you make a good point. It seems like not only is the double standard being ignored, but some people who, to your point, would be outraged if it were a Christian business owner that kicked gay people out or wouldn't make a cake or wanted to impose this kind of ban on a council. If it they would be up in arms about that.
And we hear that all the time, and they are up in arms about it. And I'm not saying that that's incorrect. They should be.
Sure, but it's I feel like you said you read something where it was well, Christians do this kind of thing all the time, or
right. So this video, not this exact video, but an article talking about this situation in Hamtramck was posted by our local Detroit paper on Facebook. And I went into the comments section, much to my regret. And I see people making this false equivalency between if you're on the right, you're going to say this is terrible and we don't accept it. Maybe because it's a brown religion. And then you have people on the left saying well, white religions do the same thing. So, you are wrong. And it's you guys don't realize that it's the same problem in two different outfits. If it's wrong to make a law based on your religion, then it's wrong no matter which religion it is. And I don't get why people are afraid to talk about that.
And I really want to know why no one who lives in Hamtramck has filed a lawsuit yet.
And maybe they have. It's astounding that this is the first time we're hearing about it 2 years after the fact. It's something that deserves more attention. I'm going to dig into more. And I guess if I find anything crazy, we can talk about it next week. But
yeah. And in terms of research, I would love to research and find out whether there is a single Christian community with a similar ban. I'm thinking we won't find it, but
But even if we don't, I'm sure there are like sort of like de facto situations like this, like Deep South, Bible Belt. I'm not discounting that there are real issues with like religious extreme Christians in some communities. I'm speaking on this situation because this is in our backyard, but I'm sure like a southern United States or maybe like southwest United States, Westboro church type people, like, let's be clear, these are extremists in their own religious groups. We did see some information regarding this Hamtramck situation that said there, even within the Muslim community, there was some disagreement about some of the extreme ideas certain candidates wanted to bring to city council. Not even all Muslims agree on this. I'm not trying to say this is a Muslim thing. This is an extremist thing. Extremist Christians don't belong in government. Extremist religious people of any type don't belong in government.
And I think really you're just pointing out that we wouldn't want any religion imposing anything on everybody else, that you're just pointing out the double standard. And
right, if like Buddhists invaded, I wouldn't want to, I don't know, give up my worldly possessions and sleep on the floor. I would be against that too.
Yeah, so it's just interesting that you might have a different standard for a different set of people on the left, and it's kind of strange. I will point out too that very near us, there's a city that has a representative who wanted to take it to the Supreme Court that like marriage should be between a man and a woman, that the way that gay marriage was legalized was not constitutional, and he's
right.
not represented. He's not representing his constituents. He's representing himself, and it really like irked me as a conservative to just like, who asked you to do this? It's just not anything anybody's really concerned about right now. This social issue that's just kind of like, we're past this. So
yeah, and like if you're right middle and I'm left middle, I, as a left middle person, will say, stay out of my doctor's office, stay out of my bedroom, stay out of my life. Like, the federal government is there to, what is it? Have a military, protect the military, and protect my constitutional rights. If you are trying to tell me about anything else, fuck off.
Stay out of my wallet.
Stay out of my wallet.
See, I'm already trying to drag her over a little bit.
Well, she's my wife. She can go in my wallet if she wants to, but
no, I have my own wallet. We share a bank account. It's all good. So yeah, I will say Hannah is at the far leftist. She's the Bill Maher to my Rand Paul.
Aw, we should get mugs. I like that.
Yeah, we should make, you're the Bill Maher to my Rand Paul to my Bill Maher, and just bring everybody together.
I'm the Bill Maher?
You're the, yeah, okay. I guess you're the Bill Maher.
Okay. He seems like a nice dude. I don't know much about him.
So our poll question is, do you have a problem with someone in the White House using drugs, using...
for clarity, let's say performance enhancing. Let's I don't think the president should be on mescaline, right? And I think most reasonable people will agree with that. But do you have a problem with somebody doing cocaine or ketamine or ecstasy in the White House?
So it's yes, I have a problem. No, I don't have a problem. Yes, the problem of the double standard of people that are in the elite getting to do drugs, but the rest of us, getting arrested.
Yeah, so either it's not a big deal, it is a big deal, or it's only a big deal because they can and we can't.
And thank you again for listening. We're going to try to find you some fresh Elon Musk beats.
Enjoy.